Hi, I'm Squidinha. Today I'm going to show you exactly where your life goes. You wake up. You check your phone. 30 minutes disappear before you've even sat up. You tell yourself it was nothing. But the real answer is far stranger. That 30 minutes wasn't nothing. It was a transaction. While you were entertained, a platform collected your attention, an advertiser collected your eyes, and a company somewhere got paid. You didn't lose 30 minutes. You spent it. And somebody else cashed the check. This happens all day, every day, in ways you were never trained to notice. Your time, your energy, your attention, your money, your effort, these are resources. Every single time you spend one, value gets created somewhere. Sometimes it comes back to you. Sometimes it goes to someone else. Sometimes you get a small reward right now while someone else gets a much bigger reward later. Most people never see the balance sheet. You don't see the return floating above your decisions. You don't see what your attention is actually worth. You just live the moment and move on. What if you could see exactly who profits from every choice you make? Scroll for an hour and you receive entertainment. The platform receives attention. The advertiser receives exposure. The platform receives revenue. Your future receives almost nothing. Spend that same hour learning a skill instead, and the shape of the exchange flips completely. You receive knowledge. You receive a skill. You receive a future opportunity that didn't exist an hour ago. Nobody else needs the majority of that return. It stays with you. You are not lazy when you scroll. You are working. You're just working for somebody else's balance sheet, for free. One wasted hour feels like nothing. So multiply it. 365 hours in a single year. 3,650 hours in a decade. 10,000 hours by the time most people finally notice what happened to their 20s. A single decision is almost meaningless on its own. Repeated decisions become a life. Psychologist B.F. Skinner found the mechanism decades before smartphones existed. He discovered that rewards delivered on an unpredictable schedule, sometimes yes, sometimes no, never on a fixed pattern, create a stronger urge to keep checking than a reward you can always count on. That's the exact wiring behind every scroll, every notification, every refresh, not an accident, just Skinner's experiment, running quietly in a billion pockets. Stanford psychiatrist Anna Lemke studies what happens right after the stimulation stops. She found that every hit of pleasure gets balanced out by an equal dip below where you started, and your brain fills that dip with a craving for more. That's why 30 minutes turns into 60. The scroll was never designed to satisfy you. It was designed to reset the craving so you come back for another round. Zoom out and your whole life looks like a small economy. Every morning you receive a limited amount of time, energy, attention, and money. You distribute those resources somewhere. You can invest them in your health, your skills, your relationships, your knowledge, your future. Or you can hand them to other systems entirely: social media, advertising, consumerism, entertainment industries, someone else's business. None of that is automatically wrong. But other people are extremely good at capturing your resources, and most of them got good at it on purpose. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. A lot of people spend enormous portions of their one life generating value for someone else while collecting just enough back to keep doing it again tomorrow. A worker gives time, energy, and skill. A company receives value. A worker receives a salary. A user gives attention. A platform receives advertising revenue. A user receives entertainment. A consumer gives money. A company receives revenue. A consumer receives a product. None of this is a scam. It's how these systems were built, and you were never taught to ask the only question that actually matters. You have spent years of your one life generating profit for people who will never know your name. Not every unmeasured hour is wasted, though. A film can have a return. Laughing with friends can have a return. Sleep can have an enormous return. Rest can improve your health and your performance for weeks afterward. The question was never whether something is productive. The question is what you got back for what you gave, and whether it was worth the price. Now picture two versions of the same person, same 24 hours, same starting point. One hands the day to whoever asks for it first, unnoticed and undirected. The other spends the same hours on purpose. Sleep becomes recovery. Movement becomes health. Learning becomes skill. Work becomes money and experience. Creating becomes an asset that keeps paying out long after the hour is over. Saving becomes capital. Time with people becomes relationships. Rest becomes energy. Entertainment still stays exactly where it was. Nothing gets eliminated. Everything just becomes intentional. Day 1, almost nothing looks different between them. Day 30, a small improvement, barely worth mentioning. Day 365, a visible difference. Year 3, a major one. Year 5, the two people barely resemble each other, different health, different skills, different money, different confidence, different options. That's the trap in the early days. A single hour feels too small to matter, so it's easy to hand away. But hours don't stay single. The magic was never one perfect decision. It was thousands of small transactions where the return kept coming back to the same person over and over, until it compounded into something unrecognizable. The Harvard study of adult development followed hundreds of people for over 80 years, tracking exactly how they spent their time and their attention. The single strongest predictor of a long, satisfied life wasn't money, and it wasn't achievement. It was the relationships people kept choosing to invest in, decade after decade, one ordinary hour at a time. Not the big, dramatic hours. The small, repeated ones nobody bothered to count. Try this tomorrow morning. Imagine every action comes with a label. You pick up your phone. 30 minutes. Return to you, entertainment. Return to everyone else, your attention, your data, your money. You exercise for an hour. Return to you, your health and strength. You learn something for an hour. Return to you, your knowledge and skill. You work for 8 hours. Return to you, money and experience. Return to your employer, value. You call someone you love for 30 minutes. Return to you, a connection that compounds for the rest of your life. Now imagine seeing that label on every decision you make, all day, every day. Would you still make the same choices? You will never feel the hour that changes your life while you're living it. You will only recognize it, years later, as the one you almost gave away instead. You don't need every action to make you richer. You don't need every action to make you smarter. You don't even need every action to make you better. But you should know what you're buying. Because every day, you're giving away pieces of your one life, whether you're paying attention to the transaction or not. Tomorrow, you'll wake up. You'll check your phone. And this time, you'll know exactly what you're paying for it. That's the transaction hiding inside your ordinary morning. If it changed how you'll look at your next 30 minutes, tap like it helps more people see their own scoreboard. And if you want more of your life's hidden economics decoded, subscribe to Squidinha. See you in the next one.